Night over the desert is a dry whisper, the kind that makes engines sound guilty. A cargo plane rides the black at legal altitude and illegal intent, red beacons ticking like a pulse you can set your watch to. Inside, 4 containers the manifest calls medical relief, 6 jump seats, and 1 passenger who didn't come to sit. Arden Vale, ex-Wildland smoke jumper, current courier of things that can't go through customs and shouldn't go through people, is cinching a rig she doesn't fully trust because it came from a client she doesn't fully believe. The job is as bald as its name, the drop. Shove gravity a problem and let a buyer catch it. The twist is new. She has to jump with it to guide it to a landing zone the GPS can't see, then vanish before the ground remembers it owns the sky. The film opens on craftsmanship rather than swagger. We watch Arden tape seams, count elastics, talk to Canopy like it's a stubborn friend. We meet her crew at the volume people who do dangerous work favor. Low. Harlan is the pilot whose hands look like they've never shaken. Samir is the navigator who reads wind the way most people read faces. Joni is the ground side, a voice waiting under static with a truck that can become an ambulance or a church depending on what the night decides. The first rule lands early. Competence is quiet until it is. The hook arrives as a change in plan disguised as a courtesy. The client's middleman, a man too smooth for desert grit, upgrades the cargo with a second package and a second landing zone, closer to town. Arden's eye flickers at the word closer. Closer means lights, witnesses, police who think desert nights are for speed traps, and a second vector to split their attention. She argues the math, weight, wind, time on task, and loses to a wire transfer the pilot has already seen. Money changes the shape of the air. Arden's character shows in the rituals she keeps and the ones she discards. She taps the photo tucked behind her altimeter, her sister before the fire, a reminder of the career she left. She refuses to call the job thrill. She calls it procedure that sometimes asks you to be brave. The film lets her be an adult about risk. She's not here for transformation. She's here for execution. That's what will make transformation possible later. The first jump is a ballet without music. The ramp yawns. Wind writes its blunt invitation. Arden rides the cargo out and becomes what she trained to be. Small, precise, a body that can move heavy things sideways with a wrist. The desert takes them with a sound like erased chalk. In freefall, the camera stays honest. No superhero physics, just a woman and her canopy talking in a language of line tension and the grace of withheld panic. When she flares for landing, the field Joni promised is there. The truck's lights pulse twice, the load kisses dust. For a second, the title looks like it might be an understatement. Then the second landing zone doesn't answer. Closer to town turns out to mean the dry edge of a municipal reservoir and a ring of sodium lights that make everything look more dangerous than it is. Joni's voice goes thin in Arden's ear as cell towers and bad luck share a cigarette. The second package's homing beacon is talking to no one. Arden could scrub. She doesn't. She rigs again because process is religion in the kind of work that makes funerals out of improvisation. Harlan calls a wind she doesn't love. Samir gives her a vector that reads like apology. She jokes once and nobody laughs. The night tilts. Drop 2 is a lesson in how control lives in inches. The reservoir throws its own weather. Thermals wobble a canopy that prefers stories to facts. A police cruiser idles on the road that shouldn't have a reason to be busy at midnight. Arden adjusts the thing you can always adjust, expectations. She abandons the precise LZ to a good enough clearing she can make if the wind remembers to be polite. The film makes you respect the arithmetic, altitude to distance to speed, by having her say it aloud like a prayer she doesn't need anyone else to hear. On the ground, Joni runs interference with the kind of tact that reads like mischief. She gets a tow truck to block a view. She buys 6 minutes by paying for gas in cash at a station that suddenly finds its chip reader sleepy. Harlan drags the plane into a holding pattern he can't file. Samir keeps counting seconds because counting is the only currency that doesn't lie. The movie keeps its structure taut by never letting anyone be magic. They earn every yard. The complication is human, not mechanical. The buyer at the reservoir is not the buyer on the paperwork. He arrives with 2 men who wear their guns like ID badges and a vocabulary of urgency no one has earned. Arden clocks the substitution by the way he looks at the sky. People who live at night always look up first, not around. He doesn't. He looks at her. He calls the package product. He asks for a demonstration. She's supposed to hand off and go. He wants to open boxes under light like God. That's when you realize the film's title doesn't just mean gravity. It means the drop people take when greed talks. Character development tightens as pressure does. Arden's principle is uncomplicated. She won't hand off what she doesn't understand, not with cops within eyesight and a reservoir a child could fall into. She leverages the one thing a courier owns, refusal. If the buyer wants the package, they load it blind, or the package leaves with her. She doesn't tilt her chin, she tilts the math. If they shoot her, they have a murder problem and a package problem. If they let her go, they have a delay problem and a pride problem. Men like this prefer pride problems. They back down 2 inches, not more. That's when the air changes again. A second vehicle arrives, lights off, almost polite. Joni swears softly, different plates, different team, same hunger. Someone sold the same night twice. The reservoir water makes a sound like a laugh. The approach to the no-spoiler boundary is a triangle. Arden in the clearing with a box she refuses to name. Joni on a road pretending to be a map. The plane carving patterns in a sky that might turn on them. The police cruiser ticks a signal on its roof like boredom. 2 buyer crews look at each other like mirrors they don't want to own. The desert remembers that sound carries. Arden does the only smart thing left. She pushes the box back into shadow and steps 3 paces where sodium light can see her. Visibility is currency when everyone's trigger discipline is a rumor. She says the sentence that buys time. We finish on the original terms, or we all go home with nothing. The movie gives her authority not by raising her voice, but by making her logistics sound like mercy. Joni, hearing the tone that means now or never, begins her own little heist. Kills a streetlight with a slingshot a cousin taught her to make at 12. Turns a 4-lane into a room. Harlan lowers to a figure the FAA would scold and drops a flare at the agreed beacon point. Red for go, green for abort. Then banks away as if a decision were a thing you could leave behind. Samir, who has not prayed since he was a boy, prays the short prayer. Please. The police cruiser finally commits to being a police cruiser and rolls toward curiosity. Everyone recalculates at once. The last choices are character, not plot. Arden can sell the package to the first set of hands and keep her fee and her future. She can crack it and guarantee herself a story that ends in court. She can ditch it in the reservoir and let the town drink the fallout. She can trigger her own emergency protocol, an encrypted beacon that will bring people she does not want to meet but who will end this in a way that might save strangers and ruin her. She can walk away. She can't walk away. We cut at the moment a courier earns her name. Arden palms a cutter, not to open the box, but to cut something else, the line that ties her to a client's secrecy. She announces a change in contract like a weather report and moves the package with a purpose that tells the camera this is not improvisation. It's a contingency she hoped not to use. Joni counts down under her breath. The police cruiser's PA barks the word hands. A flare hisses out on dirt. Somewhere above, the plane's fuel whisper tightens. The 2 buyer crews both decide, simultaneously, that the correct posture is indignation. Men with guns leave. Men with guns stay. The audience learns which kind of story this is by the way the night breathes. After this, the feature answers the clean questions good thrillers earn. What a courier owes besides delivery. What buying time costs when time is all you have. What product actually was, and who was supposed to drink it, breathe it, or vote with it. Drop keeps its promise to thrill without lying about gravity. It's a story about how falling can be a choice when done right, and how landing is a verb you conjugate with friends. The afterimages the recap can name are the important kind. A rig hung to dry in a motel shower, lines untangled with the patience of someone who intends to need them again. A reservoir quiet at noon like it never saw ambition. A truck with a ding that wasn't there yesterday, and a glove compartment stuffed with receipts you keep in case the world asks who you are. A bank transfer reversed because someone wrote a better story on the wire. A pilot staring at a fuel gauge and deciding he has exactly enough to get home. The air practicing being honest again. If you want the literal outcomes, who cuffs whom, which box goes where, who sold the night twice, those live in the feature. What this recap can promise is a film that treats skill like suspense, courage like a procedure, and the word drop like both a command and a warning.